The city had always been a battleground for justice, but it had never been this bad. Crime rates were at an all-time high, and the streets that were once filled with hope were now drenched in fear. The police were overwhelmed, the courts were corrupt, and the criminals had taken over. Gangs roamed freely, wreaking havoc on every neighborhood, while the wealthy and powerful turned a blind eye to the suffering of the innocent. But one man couldn't sit by any longer. Clint Eastwood, a former police officer with a dark past, was back in town. His quiet life had been shattered when his best friend, a fellow officer, was killed in a botched drug bust orchestrated by one of the most notorious crime syndicates in the city. Clint had tried to walk away from his past, but the pain of losing his friend and the injustice that followed pulled him back into the war on crime. He knew that this wasn't just about revenge. It was about putting an end to the violence that had taken hold of the city. The criminals thought they had won, but Clint was ready to make them pay. Clint began his mission in the most dangerous part of the city, where the criminal underworld ran its operations. He gathered intel from old contacts, learning of the syndicate's leaders, men who had risen to power through ruthlessness and greed. They thought they were untouchable, insulated by their money and influence, but Clint knew better. He had lived through worse. As Clint got closer to the heart of the syndicate, the tension grew. Every step he took put him in danger, but he was undeterred. He had a score to settle, and no one would stop him. He quickly realized the scale of the operation. Drugs, weapons, and human trafficking were just the surface. The syndicate had its fingers in every criminal activity imaginable. But Clint wasn't going to take them all down in one go. He needed to hit them where it would hurt the most, at the top. Clint's strategy was simple, but deadly. Isolate the leaders and take them down one by one. However, every move he made was met with resistance. The syndicate's hired guns were on his tail, and the closer Clint got, the more deadly the encounters became. But Clint's resolve only grew stronger. With each battle, his thirst for justice intensified. The battle raged on, with Clint eliminating the lower ranks of the syndicate, leaving behind a trail of destruction. But with every victory, Clint knew the real battle was yet to come. He had made his way into the inner circle, and now he had to confront the mastermind behind it all, Vincent Marino, the ruthless leader of the crime syndicate. Marino was a man of wealth and power, with a vast network of corrupt officials and ruthless criminals under his command. He ruled the city with an iron fist, and he was untouchable. Clint knew the final confrontation would be his toughest yet. Marino's men had been tracking Clint's every move, and it was only a matter of time before they caught up with him. Clint's relentless pursuit of justice had pushed him to the edge. He was outnumbered, but he was never one to back down. The closer Clint got to Marino, the more dangerous the situation became. But Clint had a plan, one that would put Marino's empire in jeopardy. The stage was set for a final showdown, and Clint wasn't afraid of what was to come. This was his fight, and he was ready for the consequences. Clint tracked Marino to an abandoned warehouse, the last place where the syndicate was hiding its wealth and operations. Inside, Clint found the remnants of a criminal empire, stacks of cash, weapons, and crates of stolen goods. But Marino wasn't there. Clint had walked right into a trap. The door slammed shut behind him, and the sound of heavy footsteps echoed through the warehouse. Marino's men surrounded Clint, their weapons drawn and ready. But Clint wasn't intimidated. With years of experience under his belt, he knew exactly how to handle situations like this. He fought back fiercely, taking down man after man with precision and skill. As the last thug fell to the ground, Clint heard the faint sound of footsteps approaching. Marino finally showed himself, a smug smile on his face. But Clint wasn't about to let him get away. The two men stood face to face, ready for the final confrontation. Clint's rage boiled over as he fought Marino, each blow representing the years of suffering the city had endured under his rule. Clint had lost too much to let this man walk free. The battle was intense, but Clint's sheer determination pushed him forward. After a brutal struggle, Clint finally overpowered Marino, delivering a blow that would end the crime syndicate's reign of terror. But the victory came at a cost. Clint was bruised, battered, and exhausted. Yet, as he stood over Marino, he knew justice had been served. The war on crime had reached its breaking point, and Clint Eastwood had won. In the aftermath of the battle, the city was left to pick up the pieces. The crime syndicate's downfall sent shockwaves throughout the city, and its leaders were brought to justice. But Clint knew that this wasn't the end. The fight against crime was never truly over. With Marino and his men gone, Clint had restored a sense of peace to the city, but he couldn't forget the countless lives ruined by the criminal underworld. As Clint walked away from the wreckage of the syndicate, he knew he had done what no one else could. He had taken down the empire of crime and given the city a chance at redemption. The streets would never be the same, but Clint Eastwood had made sure that justice prevailed. As he disappeared into the shadows, Clint knew that he had done what was right. And although the war on crime would continue, he had struck a blow that would echo through the city for years to come. If you want more heart-pounding action, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon for the latest updates.